A good contract is worth its weight in gold. Are you a creative entrepreneur who contracts your services to others? Well, listen up, because this is for you. The Smithers Law Group has created 14 master contracts specifically for creative entrepreneurs. These contracts are industry specific, they're fully customizable, and you only pay a one-time fee. This is so much better and more affordable than speaking with an attorney who's going to charge you an hourly consultation fee, and it's so much more secure than just Googling up your contract and hoping for the best. Find your fully customizable and industry-specific contract at stulawgroup.com. Search for the contract link. And don't forget to tell them that I sent you.
What about these people? There's somebody else out there who wants the same thing that you wanted. You wanted to heal and not be medicated, because we all know medication does not heal you. It only shuts you up. It stabilizes your mood. But what about getting to the root of it,
Repeat after me. I bring more than diversity. I bring irreplaceable perspectives. Hey friends, my name is Whitney, and I'm the host of Impostrix Podcast, the show that validates professionals of color navigating imposter syndrome and racial toxicity in their career. Join us and be validated. You got this. Well, welcome to Impostrix Podcast. I'm Whitney Lee, your host. I'm here with Shawnti, and I love this conversation already because of the conversation that Shawnti and I had during the pre-recording. Today, we are going to be talking about navigating and dealing with microaggression in the workplace as Black women, and about finding mental health support also as Black women. So with that, I would love, Shawnti, if you can introduce yourself. Tell us what identities you're bringing to this space.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me, Whitney. My name is Shawnti Refuge, and I'm a certified mental health coach, mental health advocate, keynote speaker, and author. And I help women to release, heal, and live their best lives through guided journaling.
And that's like, when you hear somebody say that, you got all these questions. Like, I got all these questions, but I know I want to keep us on two specific questions.
Okay.
And so I'm not going to go into all of the things that I wonder about you. But can you share with us your racial identity? How do you identify?
I am an African American female.
Okay. And so you're a mental health coach, and briefly, so we've had other coaches and then we've had therapists on the show. Can you tell us what your understanding is of the difference between a mental health coach versus a mental health therapist?
A mental health therapist is a licensed practitioner who can diagnose you with, whatever diagnoses there are pertaining to, severe depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. So anything on the axis, they are able to actually diagnose and treat you. They can't prescribe you anything, but they can do that. A mental health coach is me. I'm certified. I cannot diagnose you. I mean, I can in my head, but I can't tell you. And I help you with, let's say you come to me diagnosed and you say, hey, and that's one of the pre-questions that I ask on my assessment. Have you been diagnosed with anything? And if they say, yes, I've been diagnosed with severe anxiety and depression, cool. Then, then I help you with that. If someone comes to me and have not been diagnosed, but I can clearly see that they have a diagnosis, then I refer them to a therapist to get the diagnosis and the further help that a therapist can provide. More than coaching, a therapist helps you with things from the past. So they help you to go back to the past and address whatever happened in the past to get you where you are today. A mental health coach, me, I help you where you are right now, and we move forward.
Yeah, and I've shared this in other conversations that it dawned on me after I learned the difference between mental health coaching and mental health therapy that a lot of what I've used therapy for was really coaching. And so I'm a firm believer in mental health coaching, particularly when we're talking about what we're going to be talking about today, which is microaggression and some of the toxicity that we can experience in the workplace. It it may certainly trigger us. It may trigger some things for us, whether that's memories or events or feelings that we've had, in this lifetime, but it can also trigger intergenerational trauma and trauma response that maybe we don't know what's going on, per se. And so I really have used mental health coaching, both relating to just mental health stuff that was going on, but also as I've navigated some difficulty in my career environments. And so, coaching is not your first career, is that right?
That is correct. My first career is I'm a budget analyst for a mental health organization. I've been here for it'll be 20 years in September.
Oh, wow. So, you're of the generation that stays at a job.
I had no intentions on staying here that long. You know, back then when I started in 2005, I said, okay, I'm gonna be here 2 years and I'm out. That was like every job I had, I gave it a 2 year and then I'm out. And I have done that up until I got in, but when I first started, I was not in the position that I'm in now. So I
Hmm.
think that's what has kept me here so long. So every 2 years I would transfer to a different department.
Oh, nice.
So, but I haven't transferred from a department since 2009. So I've been in this actual position since 2009.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, I want to know all about when we were doing our pre-conversation, our pre-recording conversation, we started talking about how we've experienced microaggression in the workplace. And so I really want to start by diving in there because I know that you have at least one experience that you were telling me about that really took you down some paths that can be difficult to navigate for many of us, and I think many of us can relate. So, what has your experience been in your profession as a Black woman who's having to navigate, these relationships with colleagues? Now I'm learning for 20 years, so that means you experienced something and then you stayed through it. So, tell us about that.
Actually, I did not experience microaggression until I got into this position.
Mm,
And I'm in the information technology department. So, we're all the IT nerds. We like, you know, numbers and well, I don't like numbers, but my specific part of the information technology is I assign devices, iPads, iPhones. We're Apple people over here. So we were in a staff meeting. I want to say maybe 2 years ago. We were in a staff meeting and we were reporting to the director of information technology, like we always do, still do it today. And in the meeting, something was brought up, and I did not understand the question or understand my role in it. And so I asked, I came
mm-hmm.
from being afraid to ask questions to, okay, now I'm asking. And when I asked the question, a peer who don't know they appear, that's one issue, uh, mentioned, made mention, after I asked my question, they made mention that it was a learning curve. And I took that as it was, because I know you were talking about me, you just didn't say my name. But I felt like it was a legitimate question, but they said it was a learning curve and blah, blah. I don't even know what else he said after that because when I heard learning curve, I shut down immediately because in my mind, I'm saying, he calling me dumb. Then he calling me a dumb Black girl. And I didn't want to address it in the meeting because I didn't want to be seen as the angry Black woman because,
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, he's lily white. And so I shut down. When I say I shut down from the meeting, I quit listening and I just immediate tears. I'm crying
Mm,
hysterically, and we were working from home back then. And my wife was like, "What's wrong with you?" Because she's sitting right next to me doing her job, and she's like, "What's the matter?" I'm just like, "Don't talk to me." And I mean, I was hysterical. I could not control it, and I ended up having to, take something, and I don't
mm,
like taking anything, but I was so out of control that I had to. And
mhm,
um, it made me feel away. It made me feel like I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't smart enough, or I didn't deserve to be in the room, because that's how
Mm,
that person likes to treat anyone who isn't okay. First of all, information technology full of men. That's one thing. It's like 60 something people in this department, and there's only three women, and I'm one of them.
mm,
So it's like, and like I said, I've been here a long time, and this new person new. I think he had only been here like 3 or 4 years. I was like, how dare you come here and tell me, but I didn't want to be like that, because I'd have been escorted off the premises. And I talked to my coach about it, because I have a coach. I talked to my coach about what happened, and she said that was microaggression. And I told her about all the other things. Like anytime I would bring something to the table, he would be the only one to, shoot it down. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I learned later on that it was personal. Like, he didn't like me because I talk. And I don't just say, okay, whatever you say and go do it. No. And, I let the fact be known that, you're not my superior. We're peers. You have people that report to you, and I'm not one of them. So, yeah, I was able to handle it once I learned what that was, because I had never experienced that before. And once I learned what it was and what he was doing, I knew how to take him, and at this point, I don't even talk to him at all. And that's for my mental health and for me to keep my job, because I like my job. But if I ever have to work with him one on one, or in a team with him, or if I even have to talk to him, I probably wouldn't be here.
Hey, y'all. So let's switch gears for just a minute. We talk so much about empowerment of folks of color on this show. And now I want to take a second to talk about our legacy. It's so important that as we're out here doing our thing and making that money and trying to be the people that we want to be for our communities and families, that we get our estate plan together. And I know estate planning can be overwhelming. We've got your back. Our team is here to guide you every step of the way. Wills for the People is an estate planning practice that prioritizes creating and advancing generational wealth, particularly within families of color and middle-class families. This is because it's so important that we just get started. So, what do you want your legacy to be? And what steps have you taken to ensure that that happens? Take those steps with Wills for the People, where intentional planning meets transformative results. Visit our website for your free consultation at willsforthepeoplega.com. Mention Impostrix Podcast and we'll give you 10% off of your package. All right, I'll see you over there. Let's get back to the show. You mentioned a couple of things that I want to circle back on.
Hmm?
First is you said a peer who didn't know he was a peer, and I had to chuckle because this is something that we can all relate to. I know I can relate to the point where we are holding a position, but because someone else doesn't hold us with high regard or doesn't consider us their equals, all of a sudden they're treating us that way.
Exactly.
And the other thing that you said was around how you internalized what had happened in that situation. You said that you had shut down, you had stopped listening in that meeting.
Hmm.
And this is a common reaction that we have when we are, I mean, you were in effect shut down by him, by his comment insinuating that you were not smart, and
Hmm.
then you having to navigate internally uh, the answers to these questions that you're asking. Do I belong here? Am I smart enough? Is he talking about me? Did something that I say, like, was this a dumb question? Um,
Hmm.
am I the only one in this room that doesn't know what this person is talking about, that I need to ask a question? And as the question asker that I am, I can certainly relate to the experiences of looking around because somebody's saying something. Everybody around me is nodding their heads, and I'm like, but did I miss something? Like, why are y'all not, like, what is this person talking about? And so then asking the question, but then getting people rolling their eyes, or here goes Whitney again with the questions, or whatever the case may be. And I'm fortunate that in my roles, I've had colleagues, afterwards in those situations come to me and say, I'm so glad that you asked that question because I didn't know what that person was talking about. I didn't know what we were supposed to do. I got lost on the directions, or whatever the case may be. But it's what struck me about what you said was how seemingly easy it is for some people to not only make these types of comments that are microaggressions without second thought, but
Mhm.
also the impact that that has on us in the moment. So much so that we're not able to continue to participate in that moment.
Yeah. That,
I
the first
talk
and
a lot about. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was like, that's the first and last time I let that happen.
Mm, yeah. And I think for myself, I'll say I try and when something like that does happen, because it does happen,
Yeah.
I try not to let it take me out of the picture altogether. Because how I respond is a response, and I have a choice in my response today. And sometimes, particularly when this is the first time, or maybe if it's an interaction with somebody who actually is a supervisor or who holds more power than I do in the space, it can be jarring. It can feel like I'm being put in my place. And I try not to internalize that message
Mhm.
because that's giving them what they want.
Yes. You are absolutely right. That's why I said that was the first and last time that happened.
Mhm.
If I would have responded how I wanted to respond, I probably wouldn't have a job.
And
Or,
that's the other thing, right, that we as Black women have to navigate.
mm,
I've done an episode that will be releasing in March on strong Black women and angry Black women,
mm,
those two stereotypes that we have to navigate. And it's like, on the one hand, being the strong Black woman is kind of the gold standard. Like we're expected to be able to take other people's bullshit and with grace without, necessarily standing up for ourselves or doing what others would call making a scene. But then the moment that we respond appropriately, it's like all of a sudden now we're a threat because we're angry. And what we're exhibiting in terms of our anger is attributed to our personality instead of to the situation itself that
exactly.
caused us to be angry. And
Exactly.
so it is a very difficult situation to be in when you're trying to choose, at least for me, when I'm trying to choose between the reaction that I actually want to give versus the reaction that I feel safe giving because maybe I need to protect my job today.
Yeah. And yeah, that was me. Just be quiet, Shanti, because if you say what you really want to say, you probably won't have one.
Mhm.
I wasn't ready to give up my job, especially not letting him have that power over me to just go berserk like I wanted to. I just be quiet.
Yeah.
I put myself on mute. My camera was off anyway, so that was a great thing. And I just went on mute. Didn't say nothing. Didn't respond.
Yeah. Did you have an opportunity or was any support within your organization, your company available to you?
Not at the time, no. That's
Mm.
why I had to call my coach. Like,
Mhm.
this happened. And she was, oh no, he should not have. I mean, she had to tell me what he did was wrong. And that it wasn't anything wrong with me asking a question. It was a legitimate question. Don't and I used to be the one, how you say, used to be nodding my head like I knew what was going on, but really I had a question. I quit doing that. And so
Mm.
now I'm standing advocating for myself by asking a question because I didn't know the answer to it. And this is the response you give me.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
I just chose to be quiet. I didn't. I know, after talking to my coach, I realized I didn't do anything wrong, and what he did was wrong.
Right. And I think sometimes the nonchalant nature that we deal with those situations, either as an observer or as someone's supervisor who's watching. So yeah, so as an observer,
Mhm.
when we don't speak up about those situations and just kind of let them happen and keep it moving, for me, it really feels like moments of gaslighting where then I start to question myself. Am I being overly sensitive?
Mhm.
Is this a dumb question?
Mhm.
Should I already know this? Why don't I know this? Instead of the simple fact of the matter, which is for whatever reason and for any reason at all, a person said something, I'm not sure what they mean, and I need clarification. We should feel safe to be able to ask for
Right.
clarifications and to be able to ask for the things that we need within our workplace. And when we're not able to do so, that does create an environment where we have emotional non safety, where it's not safe, emotionally or psychologically. I wonder, so after your coach told you what you were experiencing, what you were going through, how did you then approach the workplace, or did it change at all for you how you approach the workplace or that type of situation?
The person, because nobody's ever done that to
Mm,
me. It's only this one person, because everybody else,
mhm,
they love me. He cannot stand
mhm,
my ass, and I do not care.
mhm,
And
mhm.
um, I don't interact with him at all, at all. He says good morning is what I want to say, but I don't, because I know it's fake. You showed me who you were back then, so I'm gonna believe that person. So no, no interaction at all whatsoever, at all.
Yeah,
And then I learned that I would have a question about something, and he would shoot it down because it came from me. But when I told the idea or had the question with someone else, and I said, "Oh, let me go ask him." Oh yes, that's a great idea. Oh yes, da, da, da. So that told me it was me, which means
yeah.
it's a him problem. I'm
It's
not.
a him problem. Yep. I love that. And we should be internalizing that. Like when we are in these situations where we're having to question whether or not we belong because of how somebody else has treated us, I've really been working hard to reframe that as that's not a me problem. This
Yeah,
is not imposter syndrome. This is not me feeling like I don't have what I need intellectually. And like I'm faking, how smart I am or how engaged I am with this subject. No. This is other people questioning me. And so I'm not going to internalize that as my own self-doubt
exactly.
or my own non-ability to do a thing. Instead, we'll just call it what it is, which is that you, person, whoever, have an issue with me or think that I don't belong or think that I'm an imposter. And that's not my problem.
Yeah.
And so in your approach, I feel like you're lucky that you don't have to encounter this person. You don't have to work with this person anymore.
I
But
do.
yeah, some of us do. And so I wonder, do clients come to you with these types of issues? And if so, how do you suggest that they work through them when you're still having to work with somebody that's been problematic in the past?
So far, I have not had a client with that issue.
Mhm.
I can't wait till I get her though. Oh, I can't wait.
What are you gonna tell her? What are you gonna tell her?
But I'm gonna tell her my experience and
Mhm.
let her know. I mean, if she's wrong, yes, I'm gonna say, okay, girl, you were wrong. But if they weren't, then I am going to uplift them and let them know, and show them how to deal with it. Because I had to write a whole letter. That's how I dealt with him. I wrote a whole letter to him in my journal, and I'm good
Mm.
now.
Yeah. So what was that exercise like of writing the letter? Was that like a releasing
Yes.
process? Okay.
Everything that I wanted to say to him, I said it in my journal. To him, I addressed it to him in my journal. I felt fine.
Mm. Mhm. Yeah. And now it doesn't have that power over you to shut you down.
No, never again will I let him or anyone else.
Mm.
First, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me, no, what is it? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on.
Mhm.
No, it ain't gonna
Mhm.
be twice. That was his one and last time. It won't happen again.
Mm. Good. Good, good. Okay. So I I am grateful that you shared this with us because I think sometimes when we talk about microaggressions and we talk about race or when we talk about being a woman or whatever our identities are, it can be difficult to be concrete about a specific situation. And sometimes that's because of the gaslighting
Mhm.
of like we know that we experienced something, but we've internalized that other people think we have not. And so now when it's time for me to share about my experience, I don't have the words for it because I've been told that actually wasn't a thing. So I'm grateful that you were willing to share with us
Okay.
um, about this. And I want to transition to my next question, which is just about mental health, because again, you and I discussed this before our recording, the stigma that our community, Black people, African American people have in the United States around receiving mental health services, mental health care. Um, and I know from our earlier conversation that you're somebody that has received mental health services. And so I wonder if you can share with us about that experience and whether or not you had to overcome a sense of stigma around needing those services.
So, I guess I'm gonna answer your question within my story. Back in 2018, I experienced a nervous breakdown. However, at the time I was experiencing, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was going berserk. Literally, I was crying, I was screaming, mad. It was just like all of these negative emotions. They were just coming, coming, and I couldn't stop it. I couldn't control it. Even if I tried to be happy, I could not fake it. It was, it was just you. Who knew who you were getting? And I thought it was just a funk. You know how sometimes we wake up, I must be about to start my cycle. I'm acting like a bitch or whatever. I thought that's what it was, but it lasted. It lasted longer than normal, and it took me maybe a month to say, okay, Shawnti, something's wrong, but I didn't know what. So I went to my family practice doctor and I said, hey, I'm acting like this. I'm acting weird and I don't like it. And she said, oh, you're just depressed. Let me get some antidepressants. I'm like, I don't want no damn antidepressants. But, I took them because I trusted her. That's my doctor. And she said, come back in 6 weeks and let me know how it worked for you. A whole while, the 6 weeks, I'm still acting, so there was a month, 6 weeks of me acting crazy. And I went back, told her, this ain't working. And she said, oh, let me give you a stronger dose. And I'm like, I don't want this, but I'm going to take them. I took them, whatever. And 6 more weeks, they did not do nothing for me. I was getting to the point where I was finding myself about to be physical with my aggression, instead of just. And I'm like, okay, Shanta, you can't go to jail now, because
Nope,
that's where I was going.
cannot have that.
Yeah, because I knew something was wrong. I just did not know what. And so she referred me to a psychiatrist. And I'm like, black people don't see no damn psychiatrist. But, I'm going to go ahead and go, because when I think psychiatrist, well, when I used to think psychiatrist, I used to think white woman laying on the couch, crying,
Mm,
drinking wine, popping pills. That's the image I had in my mind. So I'm like, I don't want that to be me. So I went ahead
right.
and went to a psychiatrist though, because I didn't know how much longer I could not put my hands on somebody in
Hmm.
a bad way. And the psychiatrist gave me antidepressants. She gave me stronger ones. And I told her, I said, I don't want antidepressants. Why do y'all keep trying to drug me? I do not want the drugs. I want to know why I'm acting like this. What brought this on? So she referred me to a therapist. It took me on my third therapist, not the first one, not the second one, but my third therapist. It took me my third therapist for her to actually sit down, talk to me, and get me to talk about issues that I don't even know I had, you know. So it was my
Wow.
third therapist who diagnosed me with severe anxiety and depression. And we use talk therapy and we use journaling. So when she first introduced journaling to me, I'm like, I don't want to journal. I mean, I was against everything. I was like, I don't want to journal. That's white people shit. I don't want to do that. I ain't got time to journal. But she had to tell me that it is a difference in the type of journaling that she wanted me to do versus the type that I had in my head. And so she went further to introduce me to guided journaling, which means these are specific questions that are being asked, and I just write the answer down. That's all. That's okay. I'm gonna try this. I ain't with it, but I'm gonna try it.
Mm-hmm.
And I used guided journaling for maybe 2 weeks straight, every day, and I started feeling better. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not mad as mad as I was. I'm not crying like I was. I'm not this. I'm not that. And I would report back to her, and she would be like, I told you. Like, journaling works. All you have to do is answer the questions. And yeah, it works. So, what I did, and I had a lot of issues through talk therapy and guided journaling, I learned that I had childhood issues, issues from being a teen mom, issues with being a single mom. I had all kind of stuff going on
Mm.
that I was not talking about, because,
Mm-hmm.
I was raised, don't tell nobody your business. So
Right.
what are we doing with our business? Nobody to talk to about it, or talking to the wrong person. When you think you can confide in someone, it's like you think of a family member or your home girl, or, but those people are listening ears, but they can't help you,
Mm.
and what I needed was help. And I got the help that I needed through the therapy and guided journaling. And once I saw that it was working for me, I created separate journals with separate topics. So I had one for self esteem, self love, unpacking baggage. I had it for everything. I'm like, oh my God, I had all these issues. But I worked on all of those issues. And I was like, okay, I'm feeling better. I'm good. And so now, instead of me negatively handling my issues when things trigger me, I don't even know. I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know things or people triggered me until I started with
Mm.
therapy and guided journaling. So once I learned that, I was like, okay, now I know what to do. So, I recognized that I had negative coping skills, which was what? Overeating, drinking, alcohol, or doing, drugs, illegal drugs. And, those things are temporary, and
Yep.
they feel good at the moment, but once you come back to reality, your issues are still there. So that's why, I advocate for address your issues. You know, the whole process, it was not fun at all. Some of that shit I didn't want to admit because I was a problem in some of those issues that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And, I did not want to face that. And so, but I had to in order to heal. My thing was I wanted to heal because I don't want to have another nervous breakdown. That shit wasn't fun at all. It was not. I didn't even know who I was. And through, my talk therapy and guided journaling, this is a whole new person here. I mean, I'm the same
Mm.
Shawnti, but just a lot of layers have been peeled back. So,
Yeah.
I used to pride myself with being mean and, people not, me being unapproachable. Like, don't fucking talk to me because that's the face I had because I ain't want people
Mm-hmm.
talking to me. And now I'm like, come talk to me. Come on. I can tell you something. You can learn something from me, and I'm open. And, I receive things a whole lot differently than I did from before. So I am better, much, much better now. And I know how to deal with my triggers and my issues and the health.
Yeah. It sounds like you've really gone through a transformation through this healing, which is really amazing to hear about.
Thank you. I did.
You mentioned so many things that I think are themes within a lot of our families around this stigma, around this notion that we don't tell people our business, and we should be able to, carry whatever it is on
Mhm.
our own, or maybe relying on the one friend or the family member, when especially if that friend or family member is doing the same thing. Like, it's not a safe, it's an echo chamber.
Yes.
Like we have our friends for a reason and they're great for pump up, they're great for all sorts of stuff, but sometimes we do need help outside of our friends and our family.
Unbiased help. Somebody
Mm,
you don't know who has been through what you've been through, who can tell you the right way to get through it. And not,
right.
take a couple of shots, you'll be all right. No, the hell you won't. I mean, you will for the moment, but I'm trying to get people out of wanting that temporary relief. Don't you want
Right.
your relief to be more permanent? I am sorry. Somebody stole somebody's kid, so that's my Amber Alert going off.
Oh my goodness.
I don't understand who
Somebody
steals
stole
kids.
somebody's kid.
Yeah,
I hope
that's
they find their child.
most of the time. And I know this is so off subject, but most of the time when I look at these Amber Alerts, when I see the description of the Amber Alert, you could tell it's just some hot ass little girl who then ran away. You could tell. You can tell. And I swear I'll be right every time. That's what it is. So you met some old ass man on the internet, and she then ran off with him. That's what it be.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
and I
At
think
least somebody noticed though to file a missing persons.
that's good because they little girl didn't come home from the weekend. She went and spent the night at Deborah's house, and she ain't came home. And Deborah's mama say, "Oh no, she wasn't here. That's all it is." Okay,
You got a whole story.
that's what it be. And you know why I say that? Because I used to be like that. But
Me too.
nobody ever had to file a missing person. I always came home. Yeah, I lied about where I was going, but I came my ass home. But these days, these little girls don't want to come home. Too many rules at
Mm.
home.
I came home one day and my dad was waiting for me. It's like,
Ooh,
dang.
that's the worst kind. That is the worst. I'm glad you
Yeah.
came home though.
But so okay, I want to ask you about therapy because you went to 3 therapists.
Yes,
And frankly, I don't know that I know a lot of people that would have stuck it out for 3 therapists to
they
to
wouldn't.
just figure it out. And I know you talked about you wanted to heal. You were on a mission and you weren't going to stop until you found that healing. And I think that's wonderful. My question is with the first 2 therapists, how did you know that they weren't a good fit for you?
The first therapist that I found, first of all, I was already, I don't want to see no damn therapist, but, I said, okay, let me just search because I didn't know. I didn't have anybody to say, hey, a good therapist I could see because we don't see
Right.
therapy. So I had to
Right.
find her on my own. So I went to Google and I said, okay, I want a black therapist. I knew I didn't want her to be too young. And I knew I didn't want her to be too old. So I said,
Mhm.
okay, that narrows it down. So I found a couple. I actually went by their names. I said, okay, that you sound like a nice person, by her name. Child, I ain't know no better. And so I found my first one. She was a black lady, wasn't too old, wasn't too young. I want to say in the beginning she was helping me,
Mm.
and then I think I saw her for maybe 6 months, I think, and I learned that she was seeing someone who I was seeing her about. So let's say you're a therapist, and I go to you and say, "Oh, I'm having an issue with this person," but she's seeing that person too, and didn't tell me.
Mm. Well, she can't though, can she? I mean, I don't think she can tell you.
Shouldn't have took that person on as a damn client. I
But
was
maybe she took you on second. Maybe she had the other person
on
first.
first.
Oh.
She took me on. Yeah, no, she took me on first, and I knew something was wrong. That's when we were still going in person, and normally I would go out the front door, but this time she had me go out the back door. I'm like, why am I going out the back
Mm-mm.
door? She was like, oh, it's crowded in there, and I don't want to protect your privacy. I just want you to go this way, and my dumb ass fell for it. And then I learned, oh, you saying the same, bitch. I'm sitting up here talking. So you're getting two sides of the information. And no, that wasn't cool at all. It was not. And so she got fired. And I did not
Mm.
leave quietly. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Mm.
So I went and found another therapist. So I said, okay, back to the drawing board. And you know what turns people off about having to go through therapists? You're gonna have to tell the same story over and over again.
Over and over and
And
over.
that's
Mm-hmm.
a turn off. But nope, I went and found another therapist because I still knew I needed something. And I had one appointment with her, and she ghosted me. Instead of her saying, okay, this is a little bit too much for me, I can't deal with you, go find another therapist. No, she just quit. She quit taking my calls. She quit responding to my messages, my email. Okay, little bitch, I got you. Okay. And by then
Mm,
I was mad. I'm like, okay, is something wrong with me that nobody wants to help me? And I found my third therapist, and I already had in my mind, okay, she gonna leave. She gonna be like the rest of these
right.
who left me. And I told her, I said, I'm gonna talk to you, but I know you're gonna leave me. She never left. She did not
Mm,
give up on me.
mm,
And I gave her hell. When I tell you I gave her hell, it wasn't just easy. No, I gave her hell probably for about 3 or 4 months. And then I realized, okay, she is helping me. She's really trying to help me. So yeah, you have to understand that therapists work for you, not
mm,
the other way around. So if you are not comfortable with your therapist, fire their ass and find another one.
mm-hmm.
What's that? Because yeah, that first one, she was out of line, and the second one, she was out of line too. And she was a black lady, and she was younger than me, but not too much younger.
Mm-hmm.
And then my third one, she's a little bit younger than me. And now, and I still talk to her every now and again. And she offered me, she was my therapist for a whole year, whole 12 months. And at that 12-month mark, she was like, okay, I'm gonna have to let you go now. I said, no, don't let. It was like a breakup. I was crying. It was
Mm,
a breakup. She was like, no, you have the tools that you need. You know what to do. I need you to use them. Don't use me as a crutch. And that's what you're doing if I continue with you after 12 months. We'll check in every few months, but no, you need to go and be on your own. And oh my God, I was devastated. Like, oh my God, she's leaving me. She's breaking up. But she was right, though. So
mm.
and when I hear about people being in therapy for like 10, 12 years for the same issue, your therapist taking your money. They are.
Or it's like me and we've switched from therapy to coaching
That's different.
because
That's different. Because
yeah, because I do feel like so I've stayed with my therapists. I've had several, and I've stayed with each of them, until frankly I've like moved from the place. I haven't like stopped seeing a therapist because at some point I didn't feel like they were right for me or anything like that. Usually it's I've left or like just maybe got tired with therapy and then stopped therapy
yeah,
altogether for that period.
I get it.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's funny. I'm sure there's a podcast or a show that's like all about therapy drama because while I love therapy, like I'm an advocate for therapy, I've had some therapists. I've had one to no fault of her own. Me and an ex-boyfriend both went to a group relationship
Mm,
therapy session
mm.
and we were the only two that showed up. And we didn't know that
Wow.
each other were going, but we lived in the same community. And so it wound up being like a post breakup couples counseling session. It was awful because I mean, he told me some stuff I didn't want to hear about myself. We'll just leave it like that.
I got it.
Um, but then I also had a therapist, a white therapist, who I was going to see her through the EAP program at work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I had just moved to South Georgia. I was afraid I was having severe anxiety. I was afraid that I was going to get lynched. Like I'm from Seattle. I never lived in the South. I got down here and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm a black woman driving around rural Georgia. I'm not safe here. So I did an EAP phone call appointment. They provided me with this therapist. I went to see this therapist. She was an older white lady. She asked me what I was there for. I told her, and then she said, "Oh, yeah. Well, my husband's racist. But I keep telling him that there are good ones." And I
Next.
Needed to cock my head to the side, to the side. I needed to take some deep breaths because similar to your experience, like I still thought I was going to be injured. Like
Hmm.
my anxiety was not going away and I didn't feel like I had the luxury to go find somebody else at that moment. So I saw her. I continued to see her for the 3. I got 3 free appointments. I continued to see her. Um but I'll also say she was the person that I was seeing at the time when my now husband texted me. I was in her office. He texted me for our first date. And I didn't know what to say because I'm freaking out that I'm going to die here in Georgia. Like, I think that I need to go move someplace else. And she's like, go ahead and go on a date with him. So I went on a date. And now, what is this? 10 years? 10 years later,
It
he's
was
my husband.
good.
So, but yeah, I mean, not every therapist is a good therapist. I think that's the moral of the story. Not every therapist has, the value alignment isn't always there. The morality and the ethics are not always there. And so we do have to be discerning when
Yes.
we're choosing like who we are going to be relying on to help get us through whatever situation it is that we're seeking support for.
You know, when I refer people to therapists, I say, find someone who looks like you,
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
or has gone through what you've gone through. And you can ask your therapist, questions. Don't be afraid to ask them questions about them and their background. If they are who they say they are, they're not going to mind answering. And you have
Mm-hmm.
those therapists who are therapists only because they went to school to be a therapist. And then you
Mm.
have those therapists who went through something and also went to school, you know, so they can combine their lived experience with their learned experience to help. So you can ask. And I always say your therapist should have a therapist because, okay, you're going to your therapist, you're dumping on them. Where are they putting that energy? They should have a
Yeah.
therapist. So your therapist should have a therapist and or a coach. And if they
Yeah.
don't, get rid of them.
And one of the things that I appreciate about what you've shared with me offline about your coaching practice is that you only see people who are experiencing things that you've been through.
Exactly.
And I think that's almost counterculture. Not almost, that is, I think, counterculture to what we are taught as people going into some of these professions that like either like it's fine if you've had that experience but you don't necessarily want to tell people, you don't want to get too personal with the people that you're who are your clients. And I in my profession as an attorney, I've been told, basically don't share your information. And just, you're their attorney, you're not their friend, you're not their therapist, you're not whoever.
You're not.
And for some of us it's really difficult to like, cuz to me that means I'm leaving part of myself someplace else, and that part of myself could be really helpful to this person.
Exactly, which is why I share my lived experience. I only coach on my lived experience, and I have learned experience. That's why I have the certification. But the certification, the learned experience, has taught me how much to divulge, or
Right.
for me to learn who I'm talking to, and what and recognize what how much they're able to take. I could just be general or I can get down and dirty. It just depends on
Mhm.
the person. So no, I mean, I don't want to talk to someone who hasn't gone through what I've gone through.
Yeah.
How are you going to help me?
Right. How do you know that what you're suggesting that I do is even applicable here?
Exactly.
Like, is this even a good idea?
Exactly. That's why, if someone comes to me and has gone through something that I haven't, I refer them out because I don't
Mm.
want to, tell you anything wrong because I don't know what I'm talking about. you know, only want
Fair
to
enough.
on what I know. I know what I know. And if I don't
Fair
know it,
enough.
I am adult enough to say, oh, I don't know this, but let me find you someone who does.
Right.
My goal is for you to get the help that you need. It's not
Yeah.
about, money or accolades or whatever. No, I want you.
Ego.
I don't ever want anyone to ever go through what I went through. Ever. That it was not, it wasn't, it wasn't it.
Mm.
It was not. So that's my objective is to help you as much as I can within my capabilities. And if I'm unable, then I refer you. I have a network of therapists, other coaches, and hey, can you take this person? This person has the, you know, that's what I do.
Yeah. So, speaking of what you know, I'd love to hear about your journals because you have a line of journals.
Yeah.
And so tell us about those and tell us where we can find those journals.
So those journals that I was talking about when I was going through my healing process, I made separate journals for every issue I went through. And once I saw they were working for me, I was like, well, okay, maybe somebody else could use this. Because I was just going to stop at that. I had no intentions on going into a business at all. I had no intentions on Shawnti Refuge journals. I had no intentions on coaching anybody. But, I really want to say that God told me, hey, okay, you're okay. What about these people? There's
Mm-hmm.
somebody else out there who wants the same thing that you wanted. You wanted to heal and not be medicated because we all know medication does not heal you, it only shuts you up. It stabilizes your mood. But what about getting to the root of it? So I was like, okay, all right, So I made them all pretty and I sent them off to a ship, to a manufacturer so they can print them because I didn't have the capability to, print. And I got on social media and said, hey, my name is Shawnti. I tell a little bit of my story and how these guided journals helped me. They really helped me. And, they did. They really did. And I'm glad that I went into business because a lot of people come to me and say, oh my God, thank you so much for this. Thank you for what you're doing. This helped me, blah, blah. And that's rewarding to me to be able to help someone else to get through the stuff that I wish I had these, when I was going through it.
Yeah.
Didn't.
Yeah. And I'm someone, I don't like journaling, but I love questionnaires. So, guided journaling makes a lot of sense for me because, like, I don't know, I guess when I'm just journaling without a prompt, it just feels like, what am I writing and why?
Exactly. It's very intimidating, especially to someone who isn't big on journaling.
Hmm.
People have journal trauma that I learned, because
Oh, girl, you
people
said journal trauma. I know exactly what you're talking about, but go ahead.
how when we used to keep a diary as a kid and somebody got a hold of it, start reading our business. So, trauma from that or trauma from your English teacher making you journal that journal thingy on the board. You have to journal about it and you had to do it in a certain way. And yeah, that's what makes,
Cursive.
yeah, oh my God. Yeah, they don't even teach that anymore. And
Mm,
so that's why I make it as simple because it's not homework. I don't ever want my guided journals to feel like homework. It is not homework. This is something you pick up when you feel like it. You answer
mm,
you don't even have to think because the question is there. Just answer
right.
it truthfully. As long as you're honest responding to that question, you will be surprised what's going to come out of you, stuff that you didn't even know was there.
Wow. So where can we get these journals?
You could get my journals at ShantiRefugeJournals.com. You can, if you're not sold on journaling yet, follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I am Shawnti Refuge Journals. And, I post content about journaling all the time and how it
Mm,
benefits your mental health.
yeah. Okay, before I let you go, I have one final question for you, and that is what is your affirmation or mantra that you rely on this season?
This season, I am saying to
Hmm.
myself every day that I love you, I thank you. I'm sorry. I forgive you. I say that every day. I love you.
Mm,
I thank you. I'm
that's
sorry.
deep.
I forgive you. Yeah. And I look in the mirror and say it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much for your time today. I've enjoyed this conversation, and it does make me want to go back and look at because I have some journals that have prompts
Go
that I have not like spent time with, and so it's making me question like, okay, Whitney, are you ready to give this another try?
give it a try.
Yeah.
Give it a try. What can it hurt?
It can't. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Thank you, Shawnti, for joining us.
Whitney, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining me for this conversation. I hope that you got as much out of it as I did. Feel free to continue the conversation with us over on Facebook at the Impostrix Podcast Validating Space. We welcome all, and it's a space for us to validate each other as we work through work, race, and imposter syndrome. You can find out more about me or about the podcast at www.impostrixpodcast.com. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Impostrix Podcast. Until next time, be validated.